on. If you need coppers, clothes, weapons, anything.
Before we unravel today's massive video, do me a huge favor, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're always updated. Hey everyone, thanks for dropping by. Today, we're tearing into the full storyline and exploring the ultimate recap of Gladiator Prince, Unshackled by Love. Expect a wild ride full of fierce family rivalries, shocking betrayals, and scenes that will leave you speechless from start to finish. Time to stop waiting and start watching. Let's roll the recap!
The air in the Imperial Chamber was thick with impending death. Shadows danced wildly across the cold marble walls. Emperor Antonius lay on his grand bed. His breath was shallow and ragged. A golden goblet lay overturned on the intricate mosaic floor. A dark puddle of spiced wine stained the pristine white stone. It was a slow poison, the kind favored by cowards hiding in shadows. Prince Titus knelt beside his dying father in absolute despair. His strong hands gripped the frail fingers of the great ruler. Tears threatened to spill from his sharp, focused eyes. He fought the tears back with sheer, unbreakable will. "They put slow poison in my wine," the emperor gasped painfully. His voice was a mere whisper now. The great lion of Rome was falling. The poison was burning relentlessly through his royal veins. "No, father, no," Titus pleaded loudly. His voice trembled with a potent mixture of deep grief and rising, uncontrollable rage. "Tell me who did this," Titus demanded. "Tell me, and I swear on every god in Rome, I will make them bleed." The emperor coughed violently. A trickle of dark blood escaped his pale lips. He pulled his young son closer to his chest. "The traitors are in the Senate," he whispered. "A man named Fox was their inside man." Titus clenched his jaw tightly. His knuckles turned pure white. The Senate was a known den of treacherous vipers. He had always known it, but this ultimate betrayal was entirely unforgivable. "Titus, listen to me," the emperor commanded with fading strength. "I need you to go to the arena immediately. Go undercover as a gladiator. Find Fox. Rip the truth out of him." Titus stared at his father in shock. "You only have 3 years," the emperor added. 3 years before taking the throne," he continued. "But what if I die in the arena?" Titus asked nervously. The risk was monumental. Death in the bloody sand was common for any man. "Then you were never worthy of the throne," his father replied coldly. "The gods placed greatness in my blood. Remember, my son, the hardest steel must be tempered by the hottest fire." Those were his final, heavy words. The emperor's eyes glassed over permanently. The great, unyielding ruler of Rome was gone. Titus stood up slowly. The grief in his heart hardened into ice. Vengeance would be his absolute priority. He stripped off his luxurious royal robes. He discarded the golden armor of a pampered prince. He needed the rough, blood-stained tunic of a slave. He needed a completely new name to hide his royal lineage. He chose the name Broken Blade. It suited his deeply fractured soul perfectly. He walked out into the cool, unforgiving Roman night. The path to the high throne would not be paved with gold anymore. It would be soaked entirely in blood. He was ready to face the terrifying monsters of the Colosseum to honor his father. Pharax, the lion of Capella, stood victorious in the blood-soaked sand. He had brutally taken 7 men down today alone. He was a monster of a man. His massive muscles bulged menacingly. A sly fighter known as Fox showed up 3 years ago out of nowhere. He was completely undefeated in the pit. Some rumors whispered he was the emperor's own elite guard. No one knew the truth. The screaming crowd cared for nothing but the violent slaughter. The announcer's voice echoed through the colossal amphitheater. "The next bout is a new challenger, a slave from the east." The crowd roared with hungry, animalistic anticipation. High up in the shaded noble stands, Lady Valeria Cornelius watched with mild disinterest. She was the chief senator's eldest daughter. She was a prominent woman of unmatched beauty and sharp intellect. Her loyal, breathless servant rushed to her side in a sudden panic. "My lady, I think I finally found him," he gasped loudly. "I found the man who saved your life years ago," he reported. Valeria's heart skipped a heavy beat. "Where is he?" she demanded instantly. Her firm voice cut through the loud ambient noise. In the arena, the servant replied. His eyes were wide with genuine fear. He is fighting Ferax right now. Valeria froze completely. Ferax? He has never been defeated in single combat. How can he possibly survive that giant monster? Valeria asked anxiously. Cold fear gripped her chest. My lady, I am afraid he will not make it out alive today, her servant warned gravely. Down in the dirty pit, the cruel overseers mocked the new challenger. A slave? He is not even enough to clean Ferax's teeth. Tear him open. Titus stepped bravely onto the burning sand. Valeria stood up immediately. Her mind was made up. My lady, you cannot go, her servant pleaded frantically. Half the Senate's wealthy sons are currently vying for your noble hand. If you are seen racing to the side of a lowly slave, the prestige of our grand house will be severely wounded, he argued. Valeria glared at him with icy, terrifying resolve. She cared absolutely nothing for petty Senate politics or family prestige. If he had not saved me that fateful year, I would have died long ago, Valeria declared firmly to her servant. I must save him now. We are going. She gathered her expensive silken skirts and rushed toward the lower levels of the arena. She would not let her childhood savior die in the dirt today. Titus calmly circled the massive gladiator. Ferax laughed, a booming sound that shook the dust. Is this your strategy? Then you do have some chances, the giant mocked loudly. Titus was silent. Send him straight to hell, the bloodthirsty crowd chanted in unison. Open him up. The thick bloodlust of Rome was palpable in the hot air. Ferax swung his massive, deadly weapon fiercely. Titus dodged the heavy blow with practiced, graceful agility. He was quick and highly calculated. All you can do is scurry like a rat from the gutter, Ferax sneered with immense disgust. Stand your ground and die, you pathetic coward, the giant roared. Titus kept his strategic distance. He remembered his father's grueling, painful combat training from his youth. Only brainless animals charge around like an idiot, Titus thought to himself calmly. He recalled a vital lesson. A real fight is not all about pure physical strength. Remember this always. To yield momentarily is not to surrender, his master had taught him. Let your angry enemy exhaust himself. Let him grow entirely blind with fury. Wait patiently for the perfect opening. When that precise moment comes, a single strike is enough. Those wise words were etched deeply into his very bones. Ferax roared again in utter frustration. His wide swings grew wilder. The giant was expending massive energy while Titus conserved his completely. I will rip you apart, the giant screamed in blind, chaotic rage. Titus finally saw his grand opening. The giant overextended his clumsy strike, leaving his left flank exposed. With terrifying lightning speed, Titus moved in for the kill. His sharp blade flashed brightly in the afternoon sunlight. A fatal, precise strike was delivered flawlessly. The massive giant fell to the sand with a heavy, sickening thud. The entire roaring arena fell into a sudden, deeply stunned silence. The previously undefeated champion was dead, slain instantly by a nameless, supposed slave from the eastern provinces. Up in the luxurious VIP box, a wealthy noble named Brutus leaped up. He was furiously angry. The wretched slave, Brutus bellowed into the quiet arena. Who gave you permission to kill my man? He was my war god. I fought with a massive fortune for him. Brutus pointed a trembling, angry finger directly at Titus. Crucify him right now. Nail him to the wood. Armed guards rushed into the arena immediately. They quickly surrounded Titus. They pointed their sharp spears at his chest. Titus stood his ground firmly, his bloody sword still gripped tightly in his right hand. He was fully prepared to fight them all to the death. I dare anyone to make a single move, a powerful, commanding voice echoed across the bloody sands. Valeria stepped bravely into the blinding light of the brutal arena. Her presence was regal. A deep hush fell over the chaotic crowd instantly. Even the hardened guards hesitated to attack. By the gods, how can such a breathtaking beauty exist in this dark world? A spectator whispered. Valeria locked her cold eyes with Brutus up in the high stands. Brutus smirked confidently, leaning heavily over the metal rail. My lady, you boldly stopped me from killing that slave just now. In Rome, absolutely no one talks to me like that, Brutus boasted loudly. But with a stunning face like yours, I will generously let it slide. Just this once, my sweet lady. Brutus looked at her with vile, unrestrained hunger. Become mine today. Be my woman. then I might actually consider sparing that worthless slave below. What do you say to my offer? Will you come to me willingly, or shall I have my men drag you back to my estate?" Brutus threatened openly. The massive crowd murmured in genuine shock at his extreme arrogance. Whispers spread quickly through the stands. "Isn't that arrogant man Brutus? His father is seated deep in the powerful Senate," a common citizen muttered fearfully to his neighbor. "Yes, they say once he gets entirely tired of a woman, he locks her away permanently," another replied quietly. "He lets his cruel men have their fun until there is nothing left of the woman. Whoever catches his dark eye is truly cursed," they agreed softly. Brutus laughed arrogantly from his high perch. "Becoming my official woman is your incredibly good fortune today. Otherwise, I will have that lowly slave nailed to a wooden cross right now." He finalized his cruel threat. Valeria did not flinch at all. Her beautiful expression was composed of pure ice. "Then you die first," Valeria stated calmly and clearly. Brutus scoffed loudly in utter disbelief. "Me? Do you even know who my powerful father is?" He challenged her with extreme arrogance. He felt totally invincible wrapped in his corrupt family's political armor. "Kneel down right now and speak to me properly," Valeria commanded him sharply. Brutus flushed bright red with anger. "How dare you speak to me like that? Kill that slave instantly. Then tie this insolent woman up," he ordered his personal guards furiously. Valeria's loyal men surged forward in a flash. They overwhelmed Brutus's guards before they could even draw their heavy swords. Sharp blades were pressed firmly against Brutus's soft neck. The arrogant noble froze in absolute terror. Titus watched the dramatic scene unfold with intense, quiet curiosity. He studied the noblewoman's face carefully from the pit. "Why does she look so incredibly familiar?" he thought deeply. "I must have definitely seen her before." The fragmented memory felt very distant to him. "My lady, it is done," her loyal captain reported loudly. Brutus was forced violently to his knees. Valeria stepped much closer to him. She looked down at him as if he were nothing but common, foul dirt. "Make him kneel at once," she ordered coldly. Brutus struggled weakly against the guards. "You wouldn't dare do this. I am of the mighty Claudi family," he whined. He tried desperately to project false strength, but his trembling voice betrayed his absolute, crushing panic. "Now you may explicitly tell me who you are," Valeria said softly. "My father is Publius Claudius, right hand to the chief senator," Brutus spat out. "I will have every last one of yours sold," the massive crowd gasped collectively. "Offend Brutus, and you offend the entire Senate." They firmly believed this mysterious, bold woman would not be leaving the arena alive today. Valeria simply tilted her elegant head. She looked deeply, profoundly unimpressed by his lineage. "Never heard of him," Valeria stated flatly. "Go on," Brutus sputtered in helpless rage. "You know what? I am mere days away from taking my own high Senate seat. For what you have foolishly done today, my rich family will crush yours entirely," he threatened her desperately. "My family will grind yours into the dirty dirt," Brutus finished, breathing very heavily. Valeria signaled her captain quietly. The sharp blade pressed much harder against Brutus's throat. A thin, bright red line of fresh blood appeared on his pale skin. "When my noble lady speaks, you listen quietly," the guard snarled at him. Valeria stepped into the bright light fully. She wanted absolutely everyone in the arena to hear her clearly. "My real name is Valeria Cornelius," she announced loudly to the silent arena. "Cornelius," Brutus whispered in sheer horror. All the warm blood drained from his face completely. "You are the chief senator's eldest daughter." He realized the terrifying magnitude of his fatal mistake instantly. He was a dead man. "So now, tell me clearly," Valeria continued mocking him. "What were you planning to violently do to me?" Brutus began to grovel pathetically in the dust. His former arrogance vanished. "I will do anything you ask. If my father finds out I laid hands on a senator's daughter, he will kill me himself," Brutus cried openly. "So I suppose it is my turn now," Valeria said coldly. "On your hands and knees. Fetch that weapon." She pointed firmly to a discarded sword lying in the bloody dirt. Brutus looked up in utter, complete humiliation and pure shock. "What? You want me to crawl like a common dog? I am a noble," Brutus protested very weakly. Valeria's dark eyes narrowed dangerously. "Do I really need to repeat myself to you again?" Brutus immediately dropped to all fours. "No need. I will do it," he whimpered loudly. He crawled awkwardly through the bloody sand. Valeria turned her full attention directly to Titus. "He tried to maliciously kill you earlier today. Now his miserable life is entirely yours. End it. Kill it," she commanded the gladiator. Brutus cried out in stark terror from the ground. "I beg you, leave me just a breath to live." Titus looked down at the pathetic crying man. He lowered his heavy sword in total disgust. "I am just a slave," Titus said loudly to the crowd. "Get this total trash out of here," Titus commanded her guards. "Do not let his foul corpse ruin the sand." Valeria nodded in deep approval. "Yes, lady," her armed guards replied in unison. Brutus was dragged roughly away from the bright arena, sobbing loudly like a severely beaten child. Titus then knelt gracefully before Valeria. "Your ladyship, I shall never forget this grace. I owe you my entire life today." He bowed his tired head very respectfully. "Wait, do you have any more strict orders for me, lady?" Valeria took a very deep, calming breath. Her next few words would change the entire political landscape of Rome forever. "I, Valeria Cornelius, eldest daughter of the Grand House of Cornelius. I have a formal request to make today. I ask the victorious gladiator called Broken Blade to be my lawful husband." The words hung heavily in the dry air. "From this day forward, you are no longer a slave. You are my equal." Titus looked up at her in pure, unadulterated shock. "Lady, what are you doing right now? You are proposing marriage to me? I am just a common gladiator in the dirt." It made no sense. "Yes, I, Valeria Cornelius, truly wish to enter into holy marriage with you today. I deeply hope you will accept my proposal," she stated clearly. The amphitheater erupted into absolute chaos. "By Jupiter, has the noble princess totally lost her mind?" A wealthy patrician yelled out. "She is the chief senator's most beloved daughter. How could she boldly propose to a talking animal?" The cruel insults flew freely now. Titus was entirely baffled by her actions. "Lady Valeria, a woman of your high blood wants to marry a lowly slave like me. I just cannot fathom it." A spectator shouted loudly from the cheap seats. "Venus herself has generously descended." "Slave, you are truly blessed by the gods today." Another bitter noble scoffed loudly nearby. "Exactly. She is a living goddess of Rome. That dirty slave does not deserve a single strand of her perfect hair." Titus stood up slowly. He looked deeply and intensely into her dark eyes. He desperately needed to know her true motive. "Lady Valeria, I may have to ask this very bluntly right now. Are you simply trying to use me to fight the old foxes in the corrupt Senate?" Valeria smiled softly at him. "You insolent fool. Do you still remember a terrified little girl who was being brutally whipped in the slave market years ago? And you killed 3 men for her?" The ancient memory hit Titus like a heavy, physical blow to the chest. The terrifying scene flashed before his weary eyes perfectly. A young, weeping girl, covered completely in dirt. She was tied securely to a wooden post. A cruel, towering slaver was holding a heavy, blood-stained whip. "This little chick is such a highly stubborn one," the awful slaver had yelled. "We starved her for 3 whole days and she still will not completely break." He had raised his dark whip again to strike. The young Valeria had cried out in sharp, agonizing pain. "Doesn't really matter." Another ugly thug had laughed loudly. "We can still sell her quickly to a local brothel for some cheap copper." The brave young girl had screamed back defiantly. "My father is a powerful senator. He will find you all and kill you." The slaver laughed in her face. "A senator? Then I am the mighty emperor of Rome." The slaver mocked her brutally. He prepared to strike her soft back again. Suddenly, a brave young Titus had burst violently from the dark shadows. His heavy wooden training sword swung with incredibly deadly force. "Who in Hades are you?" the slaver demanded right before falling backward heavily. "The man who was going to send you all straight to hell." Young Titus roared fiercely at the evil men. He fought with the terrifying fury of a wild beast violently defending its young. He cut her thick bonds very quickly. "You are entirely safe now. You are finally free from them." Valeria had looked deeply at him with wide, intensely grateful eyes. "Oh, my deepest gratitude. I am forever in your debt." Suddenly, more heavily armed guards had rushed into the alleyway. "Who did this? Run! Get them immediately! Kill that stripping boy!" the head guard shouted loudly. Titus aggressively pushed the little girl safely behind his own small body to protect her. "Run! Go that way immediately!" Valeria shook her head frantically in terror. No, no, they will brutally kill you if I leave. She had courageously thrown herself directly over him. She tried to physically block a rapidly descending metal blade. It was a stunning moment of pure, reckless courage from a child. Titus's own royal men had finally arrived just in time. They dispatched the violent thugs very quickly. The dark alley went completely dead silent. Who are they? Young Valeria asked him gently, still trembling uncontrollably from the shock. They are my personal men. You are all good now. Just go home safely, young Titus said gently to her. He casually wiped a dark smear of blood from his own dirty cheek. He turned away. Whoever you are, when I finally grow up, I am going to properly marry you, she shouted loudly after him. The vivid memory faded away slowly. Titus stared blankly at the beautiful woman. I am the senator's daughter, Valeria said softly. We got separated back then, but they finally found me. All these long years I have been desperately searching for you, she continued. But I never actually thought you would end up here. Titus looked away from her intense gaze. It is absolutely nothing, he lied smoothly. Being a gladiator fighting here is my fate. Fighting and dying violently in the arena is an honorable end for a warrior, he stated firmly. He tried to hide his true royal identity. No, Valeria instantly commanded with immense authority. From today on, you will absolutely never have to fight for your life again. She stepped much closer to him. I will personally take you far away from this blood-soaked place today. Her voice was fiercely protective. Lady Valeria, you are the chief senator's firstborn child, Titus argued stubbornly. I am just a wild beast in the bloody arena. I have a name worth far less than the dirty dirt I constantly bleed on, he added bitterly. Your powerful family will not accept this. Valeria raised her chin proudly. My personal business is my own to decide. Absolutely no one can stop me now. Come home with me today. I have bidden our loyal servants ready a clean bed and warm broth for you, she offered gently. Titus shook his head in pure disbelief. But I am still legally a slave, he protested loudly. How could I possibly be worthy of your grand status? And besides all of that, Valeria tilted her head curiously. Besides what? She asked. She wanted to know the exact thoughts of this stubborn, prideful warrior. Besides, I completely refuse to be anyone's mere appendage, Titus declared fiercely. Nor will I ever be locked up in a sunny courtyard. I will not be kept purely as decoration for your amusement. Your kindness honors me, but I simply cannot accept those humiliating terms. Valeria smiled warmly at his fierce pride. I will never lock you up. Nor will I ever let you suffer any humiliation. I swear it. Remember, you bravely threw yourself over me to block the falling blades, she recalled fondly. So now it is finally my turn to protect you. Her eyes hardened into dark steel. Anyone who dares lay a single finger on you, I will violently slit their throat myself, the crowd murmured in shock. Would someone truly risk absolutely everything for a worthless gladiator? Titus's mind raced very fast. Suddenly, his late father's stern voice echoed perfectly in his memory. Titus, remember you must safely return to reclaim the high throne. Until then, trust absolutely no one, the old emperor warned, especially those who loudly show you kindness. It could easily be a trap. I understand perfectly, father. I shall remember your wise words, Titus thought silently to himself. He needed to be incredibly cautious. Valeria's loyal captain spoke up angrily. Our lady is willing to face her entire powerful family for you. She will set aside her good name. She is willing to proudly marry you, a chained gladiator, the captain scolded him. And you cannot even scrape up a little bit of courage. Titus made his final decision. Since you are truly so sincere, I swear that from this day forward, I will proudly protect you with my life. Valeria beamed with pure joy. But I do have one strict condition, Titus added quickly. Valeria crossed her arms. Say it completely. I can stay safely by your side, but I am absolutely not anyone's property, Titus demanded firmly. I will never wear a heavy slave collar, and no one, not even you, may ever put a tight leash on me, he finalized his bold terms. The loyal captain gasped at the massive nerve. Valeria simply nodded. Agreed. Now come with me quickly to our grand estate. Wash off all that thick blood and change into clean clothes. Then we will go and bravely face my father together, she announced. As you command, Titus agreed. But I am definitely keeping this sword. I completely cannot live without it, he explained. The captain protested again. My lady, please reconsider. A gladiator is not worthy. Valeria silenced her man instantly. That is it. Even if he came from the dirty arena, he must be shown the full respect of all Rome, so from now on, you will treat him exactly as you treat me, she ordered fiercely. Understood? The terrified captain bowed. Get in. Inside the luxurious royal carriage, Valeria looked at her new husband. From now on, if you need coppers, expensive clothes, or weapons, just tell me immediately, she offered generously. If anyone dares insult you, quickly give them my powerful name without hesitation. You are the strong husband I chose. I will personally make you the most envied man in all of Rome, she promised him with absolute certainty. Valeria looked deeply into his eyes. Even knowing exactly where I came from, even knowing what I truly am, Titus asked her quietly. I will definitely never forget how you bravely threw yourself over me to physically block those heavy blades, she answered emotionally. You told me to run home. You told me you would be entirely fine. That fateful day, I solemnly swore I would repay you for my whole life. Titus watched her carefully. You already have, he said softly. But inside his calculating mind, a brilliant, dangerous plan was forming. Valeria is the chief senator's lovely daughter, he thought quickly. By using her massive influence, it might help me find the vile traitors. I should firmly stay with her for now. I must wait incredibly patiently for the right moment to strike, the hidden prince concluded silently. They finally arrived at the massive, beautiful estate. Have proper clothes prepared for him immediately, Valeria ordered her servants. Yes, my noble lady, they replied. She turned to Titus. You can wash your body first. Clean, soft clothes will follow very shortly. Titus smirked playfully at her. A bold idea struck him. You firmly promised not to treat me as a common slave, right? He asked smoothly. Valeria looked at him with mild confusion. Yes, she agreed cautiously. Titus grinned widely. Then I want you to personally help me wash. Valeria's eyes went incredibly wide in pure shock. Her elegant jaw dropped slightly. What? She gasped out loud in total, absolute disbelief. The massive wooden doors of the Cornelius estate swung open slowly. The sheer opulence of the grand courtyard was truly breathtaking. It was a stark contrast to the bloody arena. Titus observed every single detail very carefully. He was no longer a lowly gladiator fighting for his daily survival. He was Prince Titus walking right into the absolute heart of the enemy. The Senate traitors who murdered his father could easily be hiding behind these walls. Valeria led him gracefully through the long marble corridors. Beautiful statues of ancient Roman gods lined the completely silent halls. Loyal servants bowed their heads deeply as their noble mistress walked past them quickly. They cast highly suspicious glances at the large, blood-stained man following her closely. They heavily wondered why a filthy gladiator was allowed inside. Valeria ignored their silent judgments with absolute royal confidence. Have proper clothes prepared for him immediately, she commanded a senior maid. The older woman nodded quickly and scurried away in a huge rush. Valeria then turned gracefully to face Titus in the middle of the grand hallway. You can wash your body first, she instructed him with a very soft, caring voice. Clean, soft clothes will follow very shortly. She pointed toward the luxurious private bathhouse located at the far end of the grand estate. Warm steam gently billowed out from the slightly open double doors. The sweet scent of expensive jasmine oil filled the quiet air. It was a luxury Titus had not experienced since his royal father was brutally murdered long ago. Titus looked at the inviting steam and then back at her beautiful face. A highly dangerous, playful idea suddenly struck his calculating mind. He wanted to test her absolute limits and see how far she was willing to go for him. He smirked playfully at her with a highly confident, arrogant expression. You firmly promised not to treat me as a common slave, right? He asked her smoothly. His deep voice echoed slightly in the completely silent hallway. Valeria looked at him with mild, genuine confusion in her dark eyes. She crossed her arms defensively. Yes, I did, she agreed very cautiously. She had absolutely no idea what this unpredictable warrior was planning to do next. Titus grinned widely, revealing his bright white teeth against his dirt-streaked face. He stepped just a fraction closer to her. Then I want you to personally help me wash right now, he stated with absolute bold confidence. Valeria's dark eyes went incredibly wide in pure, unadulterated shock. Her elegant jaw dropped slightly as she processed his bold words. A deep bright red blush quickly crept up her fair neck and colored her beautiful cheeks. The complete audacity of his request left her entirely speechless. The grand, silent hallway suddenly felt incredibly small and tight. "What?" she finally gasped out loud in total, absolute disbelief at his outrageous demand. This is the absolute conclusion of the visual story provided in the video link. The intense tension between the undercover prince and the powerful noble daughter remains perfectly frozen on this highly dramatic, bold cliffhanger. Titus smirked as the deep shock painted her beautiful face. He slowly lowered his intense gaze to the pristine marble floor. Valeria finally found her voice again in the dense steam. She strictly ordered the loyal maids to leave them. The heavy wooden doors closed with a loud thud behind the retreating servants. Valeria walked much closer to the dirty gladiator. Her dark eyes were full of sharp defiance. She absolutely refused to back down from this bold challenger. She grabbed a soft sea sponge and dipped it into the warm, fragrant water. Titus watched her every move with highly calculated precision. He desperately needed to know if she was truly loyal or just another pawn in the Senate game. Valeria pressed the warm, wet sponge against his heavily scarred chest. The soapy water washed away thick layers of dried dirt and dark blood. She clearly saw the brutal marks of his harsh survival. A wave of deep sympathy hit her. Titus flinched slightly as the warm water touched a very fresh wound on his shoulder. She instantly softened her gentle touch. The tense silence between them was incredibly heavy. He slowly realized she was not like the other nobles. "You are incredibly bold for a man whose life I just saved," Valeria whispered softly. Her hands moved gracefully across his strong back. "I am simply testing the heavy limits of my new freedom," Titus replied with a cold, calm voice. "Do not push your grand luck too far," she warned him gently. "My father is a very dangerous man to cross." Titus closed his eyes and let the warm steam soothe his aching muscles. He knew exactly how dangerous her powerful father was. An hour later, Titus stood in the grand hall wearing pure white silk robes. He looked exactly like a wealthy Roman patrician. Valeria looked at him with sheer admiration. The brutal gladiator was completely hidden beneath the fine cloth. Heavy footsteps echoed loudly on the grand marble floor. Chief Senator Cornelius entered the vast room with 6 heavily armed guards. He was an older man with silver hair and cold, calculating eyes. He glared directly at the tall Titus. "Is this the wild animal you boldly claim as your husband today?" the senator demanded angrily. His harsh voice echoed off the high walls. Valeria stood firmly between her angry father and Titus. She raised her chin with pure defiance. "He is a brave, free man now. I officially proposed to him in the arena," she declared proudly. "He saved my life many years ago. I am merely paying my blood debt." Cornelius scoffed loudly and waved his heavy hand in absolute disgust. "You have deeply humiliated our powerful family in front of all Rome. Brutus Claudius is demanding swift justice for his slain champion," Cornelius shouted fiercely. "The entire Senate is heavily whispering about your utter foolishness." Titus stepped forward slowly. He matched the older man's intense glare perfectly. "If Brutus truly wants justice, he can freely face me in the pit himself," Titus stated coldly. The chief senator narrowed his eyes at the bold warrior. "You speak exactly like a man who has completely forgotten his lowly place," Cornelius sneered. "I will never formally accept this ridiculous union." Valeria grabbed Titus's strong hand tightly. "You do not have a choice in this matter." That same night, Titus secretly slipped out of the warm marital chambers. He moved like a silent shadow through the sleeping estate. He perfectly remembered his father's final, dying words. He desperately needed to find the man named Fox. Fox was the undefeated gladiator who completely vanished 3 years ago. He was the secret inside man who helped assassinate the great emperor. Titus quietly scaled the high stone wall of the estate. He headed straight for the dark city. The dark slums of Rome were incredibly dangerous at midnight. Drunken soldiers and ruthless thieves roamed the narrow, dirty streets freely. Titus wore a dark hooded cloak to hide his face. He walked briskly toward a hidden tavern. This specific tavern was heavily frequented by old arena veterans. Titus pushed the heavy wooden door open and stepped into the dim light. The sour smell of cheap wine and stale sweat hit his nose. He scanned the crowded room carefully. He spotted an old, scarred man sitting completely alone in a dark corner. The man had a missing left eye and a broken jaw. It was an old trainer named Marcus. Titus approached his table silently and sat down across from the old veteran. "I am looking for a specific fighter," Titus whispered softly. A man who went by the name Fox. He fought bravely in the pits 3 years ago. Marcus froze completely. His one good eye darted around the busy tavern in absolute terror. You boldly speak a dead man's name in this dark place, Marcus rasped quietly. Fox is entirely gone. He got deeply involved with the wealthy Senate lords. They paid him highly to do a very dark job. Then they completely erased him. Titus leaned much closer over the sticky wooden table. I know he was secretly involved in a massive royal assassination, he stated firmly. I need to know exactly which powerful senator hired him. Marcus nervously gripped his cup. If I openly tell you that, I will be a dead man by sunrise, Marcus whimpered fearfully. Titus quickly pulled a heavy pouch of gold coins from his dark cloak. He tossed it onto the table softly. The gold clinked gently in the darkness. This is more wealth than you will ever see in your lifetime, Titus promised coldly. Give me the correct name, and you can freely sail far away from Rome tonight. Marcus stared hungrily at the gold. Greed finally overcame his deep fear. It was Senator Claudius, Marcus whispered rapidly. He is the father of Brutus. He paid Fox heavily to smuggle the slow poison directly into the Grand Palace. Titus felt a massive surge of pure, violent rage burning inside his chest. The Claudi family was directly responsible for his father's painful death. It was the exact same family that Valeria had boldly humiliated in the bloody arena today. The pieces of the dark puzzle were finally falling perfectly into place. Where is Fox right now? Titus demanded sharply. Marcus pocketed the heavy gold quickly. They kept him alive purely as an insurance policy. He is being held secretly in the deep dungeons beneath the Claudius estate. Heavily guarded, Titus nodded slowly and stood up from the wooden chair. He had his very first solid target. He walked quickly out of the smelly tavern and back into the cold night. The absolute destruction of the treacherous Claudi family begins tonight. The Claudius estate was a massive fortress of dark stone and heavily guarded iron gates. Titus observed the high walls from the deep shadows of a nearby alleyway. 2 armed sentries paced slowly along the top of the grand battlements. He waited patiently until the moon was hidden completely by a thick blanket of dark clouds. Moving with the absolute silence of a hunting predator, he quickly scaled the rough stone wall. His strong hands gripped the cold ledges perfectly. He dropped silently onto the inner balcony without making a single sound. A lone guard stood lazily near the arched entrance. Titus stepped swiftly behind him and clamped a strong hand firmly over his mouth, pulling him into the shadows. With a quick, precise motion, he rendered the heavy guard completely unconscious. He carefully laid the heavy body on the cold stone floor. He took the guard's iron keys and heavy cloak to perfectly disguise his own tall, muscular frame. The descent into the damp dungeons was incredibly dark and smelled strongly of decay. Torches flickered weakly along the cold stone walls. Titus moved confidently downward, acting exactly like a regular sentry on a standard midnight patrol. He finally reached the lowest level of the massive estate. A heavy iron door blocked his path. 2 massive brutes stood guard in front of it. They held cruel, sharp spears and looked incredibly bored with their long, uneventful night shift. Titus kept his head lowered and approached them slowly. Relief shift, he mumbled gruffly from beneath his dark hood. The first guard narrowed his eyes suspiciously. You are extremely early. We are not due for another full hour yet. Before the suspicious guard could even raise his heavy spear, Titus struck with lightning speed. He drove his elbow fiercely into the first man's throat. The guard collapsed instantly, gasping desperately for air on the damp, dirty floor. The second brute swung his heavy spear wildly. Titus ducked gracefully under the clumsy strike and delivered a devastating blow to the man's temple. Both guards were completely neutralized in a matter of a few extremely violent seconds. Titus quickly unlocked the heavy iron door and pushed it open. The dark cell was incredibly cold and smelled of pure despair. A frail, broken man was chained tightly to the damp wall. It was the legendary, undefeated Fox from the arena. Fox raised his battered head slowly. His left eye was swollen shut, and his body was covered in dark bruises. Who are you? Fox rasped weakly. Did Claudius finally send someone to silently finish the dark job tonight? He asked bitterly. Titus stepped entirely into the dim light of the single torch. I am the angry son of the man you cowardly poisoned, Titus stated with absolute terrifying calmness. Fox gasped loudly and his eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated terror. Prince Titus, Fox whispered in sheer disbelief. You are actually alive. They told us you died in the chaotic riots. Titus drew his sharp blade slowly. "Tell me exactly how you did it. Tell me the names of every single traitor involved." Fox coughed violently, spitting dark blood onto the floor. "I was only a simple pawn, my prince. Claudius paid me heavily to smuggle the poison, but he was definitely not the true mastermind behind the Emperor's painful assassination." Titus pressed the sharp tip of his blade tightly against Fox's throat. "Do not play foolish games with me. Give me the real name now." Fox looked up with a tragic, hopeless smile. It was the chief senator. It was Senator Cornelius himself. The shocking revelation hit Titus like a physical blow. The chief senator, Valeria's own father, the very man whose grand estate he was currently living in. The dark conspiracy ran much deeper than he could have ever imagined possible. Claudius and Cornelius planned it together perfectly, Fox confessed tearfully. They wanted to entirely control the vast Roman Empire. Your father was simply too strong and refused to let the corrupt Senate dictate his grand royal decrees. "Why did they keep you alive down here?" Titus demanded sharply. "Because Cornelius secretly does not trust Claudius at all," Fox explained. "I am the living proof of Claudius's direct treason. Cornelius kept me hidden here for blackmail." Titus slowly lowered his heavy sword. His mind raced frantically. If Valeria's father was the main traitor, what exactly did that mean for his new, unexpected marriage? Did Valeria secretly know about this dark assassination plot all along? He absolutely refused to believe she was a vile traitor. Her brave sacrifice in the bloody arena had seemed incredibly genuine. But he was a prince of Rome, and he could no longer afford to blindly trust anyone. He had to be very careful. Titus knew he could not leave Fox here to die. The broken gladiator was the only solid proof he had against the corrupt Senate. If Cornelius was truly the grand mastermind, Titus needed absolute evidence to expose him publicly. He quickly broke the heavy iron chains binding Fox to the damp wall. "You are coming with me right now," Titus commanded firmly. "If you try to run away or betray me again, I will personally end your miserable life tonight." Fox nodded weakly and struggled to stand on his battered legs. "I will do exactly whatever you say, my prince. Just get me out of this dark hellhole." Titus supported the injured man's heavy weight across his broad shoulders. They moved silently through the dark dungeon corridors. Titus easily avoided the remaining guards on patrol. The element of pure surprise was completely on his side. He managed to smuggle Fox out of the massive Claudius estate. He hid the exhausted witness safely inside a deserted warehouse near the river. "Stay hidden right here and make absolutely no noise," Titus instructed him sharply. He gave Fox a small water skin and locked the heavy wooden door. Titus rushed back to the Grand Cornelius estate before dawn could break. He scaled the high walls again and slipped silently through the lush gardens. He needed to find hard evidence inside the chief senator's private quarters. He bypassed his own marital bedroom entirely. He crept down the silent marble hallway toward the senator's massive study. The heavy oak doors were firmly locked from the outside. Titus easily picked the simple iron mechanism. He slipped inside the dark, luxurious room and closed the door without a sound. The study smelled strongly of old parchment and expensive ink. A single candle flickered softly on the massive mahogany desk in the center. Titus began to systematically search the large wooden drawers. He was looking for secret letters, hidden ledgers, or any written proof of the dark assassination plot. He moved with the quiet efficiency of a trained assassin. He carefully examined every single scroll and financial record. Most of it was just standard Senate business and boring trade agreements. But Titus knew a man like Cornelius would never leave his darkest secrets out in the open. Titus noticed a slight scratch on the ornate wooden floor beneath the heavy desk. He knelt down quickly and felt along the smooth surface. His keen eyes caught a tiny, hidden mechanism concealed beautifully within the wood grain. He pressed the hidden button firmly. A small, secret drawer slid open silently near the bottom of the desk. Inside lay a single, dark leather-bound journal. Titus carefully pulled the heavy book out and opened it to the middle. The pages were filled with coded messages and secret financial transactions. Titus recognized the official royal seals immediately. There were massive payouts listed beside the names of several highly powerful Roman senators. He found the exact entry he was desperately looking for. A massive payment made to Senator Claudius on the exact day his royal father was poisoned. It was the undeniable proof of the grand conspiracy to steal the Roman throne. Suddenly, the heavy oak door to the private study creaked open loudly. Titus froze completely in the dark shadows. A soft, warm light spilled into the room from the hallway. Someone had just caught him in the very act of spying. Valeria stood in the open doorway holding a bright silver candle holder. She was wearing a thin, white silk nightgown. Her dark, beautiful hair cascaded freely over her bare shoulders. She stared directly at the disguised Titus. "What exactly are you doing in my father's private study at this hour?" she demanded softly. Her voice was steady but laced with deep suspicion. Titus slowly stepped out of the dark shadows and faced his new powerful wife. He hid the dark leather journal quickly behind his broad back. "I could not sleep well," he lied very smoothly. "I was just looking for a good book to read." Valeria narrowed her sharp eyes and stepped fully into the dark room. "You do not strike me as an avid reader of boring Senate trade laws," she challenged him coldly. "You are actively hiding something from me. Show me what is behind your back right now." She walked closer to the fierce warrior. Titus hesitated for a brief moment. If he showed her the damning journal, she might scream for the armed guards immediately. She was fiercely loyal to her powerful family, but he also remembered how she bravely saved his life. Titus looked deeply into her dark, beautiful eyes. He saw the exact same fierce courage from the brutal slave market. He slowly brought his strong hands forward. He placed the dark leather journal gently onto the heavy wooden desk. "This is not just a regular book," Titus stated calmly. "It is the undeniable proof of your father's highest treason." Valeria stared at the book and then back at him. "Treason? Against whom?" "The emperor is already dead," she whispered. "He was brutally murdered," Titus corrected her fiercely. "Poisoned by the corrupt Senate. Your father led them all." Valeria shook her head in sheer disbelief. "You are just a gladiator. How could you possibly know royal secrets?" Titus stood entirely straight. He discarded the posture of a lowly slave. He radiated pure, absolute royal authority. "I am not a slave named Broken Blade," he declared loudly. "My true name is Titus. I am the rightful heir of Rome." Valeria gasped loudly and dropped her silver candle holder. It clattered violently against the smooth marble floor. The young prince she had heard was dead was standing right in front of her. The man she had just married today. "My father ordered the assassination of the emperor?" she asked, her voice trembling with intense, raw emotion. Titus nodded slowly. "He paid Claudius to do the dirty work. This secret journal contains all the financial records." Valeria gently picked up the dark book. She flipped through the coded pages rapidly. Her sharp mind read the numbers. Tears of pure anger welled up in her eyes. "He always lied to me. He said he wanted pure peace for the Grand Republic. He only wanted absolute power," Titus replied coldly. "Now you must make a very difficult choice tonight, Valeria. You can loudly call the guards and have me killed right now, or you can help me avenge my father and save Rome." The heavy silence in the dark study was completely deafening. Valeria looked at the damning evidence in her hands. She loved her family name deeply, but she passionately hated cruelty and corruption even more. She made her final choice. She handed the dark journal back to the prince. "I swore to protect you in the bloody arena today," she stated firmly. "I absolutely meant every single word of it. If my father is a vile traitor, he must face the strict justice of Rome." Titus felt a massive wave of relief wash over him. His dangerous gamble had paid off perfectly. She was truly loyal. "We must be incredibly careful," Titus warned her gently. "If Cornelius suspects anything, we will both be executed." "The Grand Senate meets in exactly 3 days," Valeria whispered strategically. "That is our perfect time to strike. We will publicly expose him in front of all the nobles. We will bring his corrupt empire crashing to the dirty ground." The next 3 days were a highly tense game of shadows. Titus and Valeria played the happy newlyweds perfectly. They smiled brightly at the chief senator during lavish family dinners. They hid their deadly intentions flawlessly. Secretly, Titus visited the hidden warehouse every single night. He made sure the key witness, Fox, was entirely safe. He also sent covert messages to his father's remaining loyal generals. He commanded them to quietly surround the Senate. Valeria used her immense social influence to secure their exact positions. She gathered loyal allies among the young nobles. She secretly warned them of a massive shift in political power. She urged them to stand on the right side of history. The morning of the Grand Senate meeting finally arrived. The bright Roman sun shone harshly on the white marble columns. Titus strapped his heavy gladiator sword to his waist. He hid it perfectly beneath his flowing, white senatorial robes. The Grand Senate building was packed with wealthy, corrupt politicians. They wore expensive white togas with deep purple stripes. The air was incredibly thick with arrogance and hidden daggers. Chief Senator Cornelius sat proudly on his high, ornate wooden chair. He looked down at the massive assembly with absolute authority. Senator Claudius sat right beside him, whispering dark secrets. Valeria entered the grand hall with her chin held high. She looked exactly like a fierce, untouchable Roman goddess. Titus walked slightly behind her, playing the role of the obedient new husband. Many arrogant senators scoffed openly at the sight of the former gladiator. They thought it was a completely hilarious joke. They had absolutely no idea a deadly wolf was walking among the fat sheep. Cornelius raised his heavy hand to command total silence. The loud chatter died down instantly. "We gather today to discuss the future of our Grand Republic," the corrupt leader announced loudly. "Since the tragic, sudden death of our beloved emperor, we need strong guidance." He smiled falsely at the crowd. "The Senate must take absolute control to ensure total peace and lasting prosperity." Titus stepped forward boldly from the shadows of the marble pillars. His sudden movement shocked the entire assembly. "You do not want peace for Rome," his deep, commanding voice echoed in the hall. "You only want absolute, unchallenged power for yourself." The crowd gasped loudly at the massive disrespect. A lowly gladiator dared to interrupt the chief senator in the sacred halls of power. Cornelius turned bright red with intense, uncontrollable fury. "Guards, arrest this filthy animal immediately," he roared fiercely. "Throw him back into the bloody arena where he truly belongs." Valeria stepped forward quickly and stood shoulder to shoulder with Titus. "Stand down immediately," she ordered the guards with fierce authority. "My husband has the absolute right to speak today. He is not just a gladiator," she declared proudly to the stunned room. Titus reached inside his white robes. He pulled out the dark leather journal. He held it high for every single senator to see. "This book contains the exact financial records of a royal assassination," Titus shouted. "It proves that Senator Claudius paid a dark assassin. It proves Chief Senator Cornelius funded the treason." Claudius jumped up from his wooden seat in sheer panic. "That is a complete forgery," he screamed desperately. "That wild beast is blatantly lying to destroy our noble families. Kill him right now. If the book is not enough proof, perhaps a living witness will satisfy you," Titus countered coldly. He gave a sharp whistle. The heavy bronze doors of the Senate Hall swung open with a loud crash. Two loyal generals marched into the grand room. They were heavily armed and wore the royal crest. Between them walked a heavily battered man. It was Fox, the missing assassin from the dirty arena. Claudius collapsed back into his chair in total, paralyzing fear. He recognized his secret assassin instantly. Cornelius stared at the broken man with wide, terrified eyes. His grand empire was falling. Fox stood before the silent Senate. His battered body shook, but his voice was completely clear. "I am the man they called Fox," he announced. 3 years ago, I smuggled the slow poison into the imperial palace. Senator Claudius paid me a massive fortune in gold," Fox continued loudly. "But the direct orders came from the chief senator himself." He pointed a shaking finger directly at Cornelius. The hall erupted in utter chaos. Senators began shouting at each other wildly. The undeniable truth was finally exposed to the bright light of day. Cornelius slammed his heavy fists on his ornate wooden desk. "Silence!" he roared like a wounded beast. But his supreme authority was entirely gone. The loyal royal generals stepped forward and drew their sharp swords. "You are under immediate arrest for high treason and the royal assassination," the lead general declared. Claudius fell to his weak knees and began to weep pathetically. He loudly begged for any mercy from the angry crowd. Cornelius, however, remained incredibly stubborn. He glared at Titus with pure, unadulterated hatred. "You are nothing but a dead prince walking," Cornelius spat fiercely. "My loyal guards will slaughter you all right here." He signaled his personal guards to attack, but they simply stood there entirely completely still. Valeria had already spoken to the guard captains the night before. She had bravely convinced them to abandon her corrupt father. They knew the true Prince of Rome had finally returned. They dropped their heavy weapons. Cornelius realized he was entirely completely alone. His grand empire of dark lies had crumbled into dust perfectly. The royal soldiers moved in quickly and placed heavy iron shackles on both of the corrupt, greedy men. Titus walked slowly up the marble steps toward the high podium. He looked down at the chained traitors with a cold, hard stare. "You thought you could easily steal Rome from my family," Titus stated with absolute calm. "But the blood of the true emperor still flows strongly in my veins." He threw off his white senatorial robes completely. Underneath, he wore the golden chest plate of the royal family. The golden lion crest shone brightly. The remaining senators gasped in pure awe and quickly fell to their knees. They bowed their heads deeply in total submission. "All hail Prince Titus," the lead general shouted loudly. "All hail the true emperor of Rome." The massive cheer echoed powerfully through the grand halls. Titus had officially reclaimed his father's stolen throne. He looked over the kneeling crowd and found Valeria. She was smiling brightly with tears in her eyes. The very next morning, the entire city of Rome gathered at the main plaza. The bright sun beat down on the massive crowd. Titus sat proudly on the high imperial throne. He wore the grand purple robes of the absolute ruler. Cornelius and Claudius were dragged forcefully before him in heavy chains. They looked incredibly small and utterly pathetic now. The loud crowd jeered and threw dirt at the fallen traitors. They demanded swift, bloody justice. Titus raised his hand and the plaza went completely silent. "You have committed the ultimate treason against Rome," he declared loudly. "For the cowardly murder of the emperor, your punishment is absolute and permanent. You shall be stripped of all your noble titles and massive wealth," Titus commanded. "You will spend the rest of your miserable lives working in the deep sulfur mines." It was a fate considered entirely worse than death. The guards quickly dragged the screaming traitors away from the grand plaza. Titus then turned his attention to the battered assassin. Fox knelt humbly before the high throne. He fully expected to be executed immediately. "You delivered the fatal poison to my father," Titus said coldly. "But you also provided the crucial truth to save Rome." He looked at the broken man carefully. "Your crimes are severe, but your final actions were just. I grant you a full royal pardon today," Titus announced clearly. "But you must leave the city of Rome forever and never return." Fox wept with deep gratitude and bowed his head to the stone floor. His life was graciously spared. Justice had finally been served perfectly. The dark shadows over the grand empire were entirely lifted. Titus stood up and addressed his loyal people. A new, golden era of true peace and strong justice was about to begin. Titus walked gracefully down the marble steps toward his beautiful wife. Valeria stood proudly in a stunning gown of pure white silk. She had risked her entire life and powerful family name to boldly save the hidden prince. He took her soft hands in his and looked deeply into her dark eyes. "I promise to protect you with my life in the bloody arena," Titus whispered warmly. "Now I promise to fiercely protect you for the rest of eternity." He turned to face the massive, cheering crowd of Rome. "Behold your brave savior," Titus shouted with immense pride. "The woman who single-handedly pulled the true emperor from the bloody dirt. Behold Valeria, your empress." He gently placed a beautiful golden crown upon her dark hair. The entire city erupted in absolute deafening joy. The fierce gladiator and the brave noblewoman were finally united. Together, they would rule Rome forever. The first year of their royal reign was incredibly challenging. The corrupt roots of the old Senate ran very deep in the city. Titus and Valeria worked tirelessly to purge the lingering venom. They replaced greedy men with true heroes. Valeria proved to be a highly brilliant political strategist. She knew every single hidden alliance within the noble houses. She systematically dismantled the remaining corrupt factions. Rome finally breathed a massive sigh of pure relief. Titus focused heavily on rebuilding the royal army's lost honor. He promoted loyal soldiers based purely on strict merit. He removed the wealthy, lazy commanders who had bought their high ranks. The military became a true shield again. Together they formed an absolutely unstoppable royal force. They sat side by side on the grand imperial throne every day. They listened patiently to the genuine pleas of the common citizens. True justice was finally restored in Rome. Titus never forgot his brutal time in the bloody sand. The cruel roars of the massive Colosseum still echoed in his mind. He knew the gladiatorial games were a vile stain on Roman honor. It was time to end the senseless, bloody slaughter. He issued a grand imperial decree banning all death matches. The bloody arenas were permanently shut down across the empire. the enslaved fighters were officially granted their full freedom. Many chose to join the new royal army proudly. Some wealthy, arrogant nobles protested the sudden ban loudly. They claimed the brutal games were a vital Roman tradition. Valeria silenced them with a single, highly terrifying glare. "Tradition does not justify pure murder," she stated. The massive Colosseum was transformed into a grand public market. Where blood once soaked the dirty sand, fresh food was sold. The common people rejoiced at the new era of total peace. The emperor had completely healed Rome's dark soul. Under their combined rule, the Roman Empire flourished beautifully. Trade routes were highly secured against ruthless bandits. The grand treasury swelled with honest gold instead of stolen taxes. The streets were safe for all citizens now. Valeria funded massive public works and beautiful grand libraries. She firmly believed that pure knowledge was true imperial power. She opened schools for the poor children of the crowded slums. The future of Rome looked incredibly bright. Titus ensured the distant borders were heavily fortified. Foreign enemies feared the newly united, highly disciplined army. No one dared to attack the mighty Lion of Rome and his fierce empress. Total peace reigned across the vast lands. They often walked through the bustling city streets in disguise. They wanted to see the honest truth of their growing empire. The people smiled brightly and laughed freely in the warm sun. Their great sacrifice had been entirely worth it. 3 years later, the grand imperial palace was filled with joy. Valeria gave birth to a highly strong and healthy baby boy. The entire city of Rome celebrated the royal birth for 7 days. The imperial lineage was finally secured. They named the young prince after Titus's murdered royal father. Little Antonius had his mother's beautiful eyes and his father's spirit. He was the perfect symbol of their unbreakable, deep love. He was the bright dawn of a new era. Titus held his tiny son gently in his strong, scarred arms. He silently swore that this boy would never know the arena's cruelty. He would be raised with true honor, pure love, and deep wisdom. The dark cycle of betrayal was broken. Valeria watched them with a soft, incredibly loving smile. She had saved a terrified slave and gained a magnificent emperor. Their incredible journey from the bloody dirt to the high throne was complete. The gods had truly blessed them. Decades passed slowly, and their golden reign became highly legendary. Bards sang epic songs of the Gladiator prince and his brave empress. Their grand love story inspired every single citizen in the vast empire. They were truly beloved. Titus grew old with profound grace and unmatched royal wisdom. The heavy scars on his broad back faded into proud memories. He had successfully fulfilled his father's final, dying wish completely. He had avenged the cruel treason perfectly. Valeria remained exactly as fierce and fiercely beautiful as ever. Her sharp mind guided the Senate through every complex crisis. She was the absolute true heartbeat of the massive Roman Empire. Without her, Titus would have been lost. They proved that the hardest steel is tempered by the hottest fire. Their heavy trials had only made their deep bond much stronger. They had boldly faced the absolute worst of human nature and won. Pure love had conquered dark treason. On their 50th wedding anniversary, they stood on the balcony. The magnificent city of Rome stretched out beautifully before them. Millions of loyal citizens held bright torches in the warm night. It was a breathtaking golden sea. Titus took Valeria's soft, wrinkled hand in his strong grip. He kissed her knuckles with the exact same fierce devotion. "You are my absolute greatest victory," the old emperor whispered warmly. Valeria leaned her head on his shoulder. "And you are my completely unbroken blade," the empress replied softly. They watched the bright fireworks illuminate the dark sky perfectly. Their grand legacy was firmly etched into the eternal stone of Rome. It would last forever. The story of the enslaved prince and the brave noblewoman ends here. They successfully unshackled themselves from heavy chains and dark treason. Together they rose to rule the greatest empire on the earth. Their grand love conquered all.